Okay, this is the reading of The People Vs Frankenstein. Act 1, Scene 1, lights up. Outside of Boston jailhouse, 1820. A partial brick wall, some wood crates and debris suggest a narrow alley and the backside of a city jailhouse. A barred window is about a man's height up the wall. A worn sign reads, Commonwealth of Massachusetts City Jailhouse, all deliveries to the front. Tommy and Tyler, two ragamuffin preteen boys, rush on stage, anxiously trying to sneak a peek inside the small cell window. Tommy, the smaller of the two, climbs up his friend's back and balances on Tyler's shoulders. On his tippy toes, Tommy's just high enough to see inside.
You see him? You see the monster yet?
There's something in there. There's something big and ugly, all chained up like an animal or something.
And he's all burnt up like folks is saying?
Hard to tell. Not much light in there, but it smells worse than your mama's fried possum.
Well, hurry down so as I can take a peek. That old constable be creeping about here any sec or so.
Sergeant McAfee, a stern Irish accented Boston police constable, rushes around the corner, a billy club firmly gripped in his hand.
You're darn tootin'. I told you roustabouts before. There ain't no circus sideshow.
Scram, Tyler. The boys scamper at the sight of McAfee, nearly colliding with Olivia Hoffner as she enters the stage. Olivia, late 20s, intelligent, compassionate, with a slight English accent, carries a small basket with medical supplies. Some rolls of bandages fall out in the collision. Tyler pauses a beat.
So sorry, ma'am.
Tyler rushes off to join his friend as Olivia collects the fallen bandages. McAfee stops near her.
Are you here to start the freak show too?
I'm here to tend to his wounds. I've heard he was severely burned in the fire last night.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Okay. He got it bad all right. Won't no doctor go near him.
That's horrible.
Yeah. I wouldn't fuss much. He'll be swinging from a rope soon enough.
Surely there will be a trial first. He has rights.
If the district attorney had his way, they'd put him down like a frothing dog.
But he's not a dog, is he? He has a name. Maxwell Berg.
Oh, you know the brute.
Let's just say I'm the closest thing to a mother he has.
Sure, and I'm bloomin' St. Peter. Now move along, lady.
I don't expect you to believe me, Constable.
Glancing at his name badge, she turns on the charm.
Sergeant McAfee. But whatever he looks like, whatever he's accused of, he deserves proper medical care and a chance to tell his side of the story.
He ain't telling nothing to nobody, lady. His throat's messed up from all this smoke. He can't barely utter a word, unless he's a mute all along.
Oh dear. Please, just a few minutes.
Afraid not, lady. Move it along now. Don't come back unless you got a court order.
Olivia steps away and McAfee disappears back around the corner. She pauses to look up at the lone window, her face filled with concern. Fade to black. Scene 2. Lights up, a Boston courtroom some weeks later. Upstage center is a judge's raised bench with attached witness dock, behind which is the door to the judge's chamber. Off to the side is an evidence table, a U.S. flag with 23 stars and a period appropriate Massachusetts state flag. Stage left is the prosecution's table with 2 chairs in front of a wooden rail with a swinging gate, separating it from a modest gallery of several chairs or benches. Stage right is the defense's table with 3 chairs and a door off to the hallway outside the courtroom. Perched in the background somewhat is a small but noticeable metal statue of a blindfolded Lady Justice. Her movable scales tilt slightly downward on one side. The courtroom is empty except for Alexander Coopersmith and Ernest Frankenstein. Ernest, mid-20s, well-dressed, likable but aloof, with a slight Austrian accent, sits at the prosecution table, brushing a sporty Bavarian hat. Coopersmith, 50s, distinguished yet drab, with a thick Bostonian accent, paces nearby as he pages through an impressive stack of documents, looking more than a little exasperated.
That malicious viper.
Easy, Coopersmith. What foul mood has possessed you?
That cad Bellini. First, he strong-arms the case from that greenhorn public defendant, then he inundates the court with yet more of his confounded pre-trial motions.
You said yourself, The evidence in this case is overwhelming.
I believe I said compelling, Ernest. Mark me, this rascal Bellini's no frontier barrister. He's as slippery as a snake oil salesman.
Certainly we have the truth on our side.
Truth has no place in a courtroom.
You do your own skills a disservice. You have the best conviction rate of any prosecutor in Massachusetts.
He'll paint Maxwell Berg a misunderstood victim. Now mark that too, Ernest. Juries can be fickle things.
That brute is the devil incarnate.
So you keep saying. But now the press has gotten a whiff of things, no doubt courtesy of one Cornwall Bellini, Esquire. And this quiet little affair is making front page news.
It's People Vs Frankenstein. I read the morning's Gazette too. Nearly choked on my tea. Frankenstein. As if that abomination was any kin to me.
Well, we tread that path before, Ernest. I was not aware Max had adopted a different surname when I issued the warrant.
So my once proud family name continues to be synonymous with that monster. Because that's not bad enough, that wretched Shelley book is back in print and being sold on every street corner. Where is the injunction you promised?
As much as you hate the inaccuracies, the book leaves little doubt that the creature kills without compunction.
All the good it does, when we can only press charges for one blasted murder.
It's God's own providence that ship was registered here in Boston, Ernest. And don't be so hasty to discount the lesser charges. Arson is still a capital offense in Massachusetts.
And the 2 other deaths go unatoned for? Where's the justice in that?
Justice will be served if Max hangs for anything. Take the victories the Lord provides.
Monstrosity destroyed everyone I've loved or cared about. I move an ocean away and he still haunts me. His blight on this world must be eliminated permanently.
I'm a man of God, Ernest. A creature offends my every fiber. Bellini was not best, and it will not best us in this or any court. I have a bit of the snake charm in me, too.
The bailiff opens the door behind the defense table, letting in a small crowd of witnesses and spectators who make the unfamiliar walk across the room to the gallery to find their seats. Olivia enters at the end of the crowd, dressed a little more formally than we last saw her. She carries a small handbag, removing her hat as she walks towards the defense table. Ernest does a double take, delighted to see her.
Olivia?
Ernie? Ernest. It's been a long time.
Too long. How it lifts my heavy heart to see you again. You've come all the way to Boston for the trial?
No, I live here now. I have a small apothecary in Quincy.
Well, you always did love your breakers and potions, but I thought surely you'd run off to become a brilliant surgeon somewhere. Victor often said you had the most gifted hands in mind of anyone he'd ever met.
One of your brother's most radical notions was that women had value beyond the kitchen or boudoir.
Radical notions for his life's blood.
Indeed. And how you've grown. You look so much like Victor, it's uncanny.
You flatter me. Truly, you are the most remarkable. You haven't aged a day in, what, nearly a decade? Such a delight for you to show up now to offer support as we send that beast to...
Ernest, things are not as you think.
The general murmur of the crowd in the gallery drops to a hush as Cornwall Bellini enters from the door stage right, carrying a fine leather briefcase. Bellini, 50s, flamboyant, dressed like a southern dandy, makes a substantial show of taking in the room.
My, what a quaint little courthouse y'all have up here. Good day, gentlemen. I trust I haven't kept anyone waiting.
We're not swayed by the theatrics here, Bellini.
Life is theater, crew. You've just got to grab center stage.
It's Cooper Smith, and I think you'll find a little humility is favored here as well, sir.
I am ever a humble servant of the court.
Taking one case pro bono does not a humble servant make.
You wound me, crew. Now come along, dear. We have matters to attend.
Olivia looks sheepishly at Ernest, then turns and walks with Bellini to the defense table. Ernest takes a small step forward.
Olivia?
I'm sorry, Ernest.
You're helping this charlatan?
Helping me, my good man, she's all but solicited my services. Her impassioned letter moved me to clear my calendar and champion the cause of righteousness.
Tell me this is not true.
Before Olivia can respond, the bailiff comes forward, his voice raised to be heard above the din.
Hear ye. All those who have business before the court, step forward and ye shall be heard. All rise.
Everyone rises to their feet. Olivia quietly steps to one of the extra chairs at the defense table. Judge L.L. Gardner emerges from the upstage door and approaches the bench. He is stern, 60, smoking a large pipe.
The Honorable Judge Lawrence Lee Gardner presiding.
Ernest looks desperately to Olivia, but Bellini casually blocks his view. The judge takes his seat.
You may be seated.
The court sits.
Case number 1931. The People Vs Frankenstein is now in session. The court will consider pretrial motions at this time. Given the number of them before the court, I urge counsel to keep your arguments brief. Mr. Bellini, the defense may begin.
Thank you ever so much, Your Eminence.
Your honor will suffice.
Yes, of course.
Your client has waived his right to be present during pretrial?
He has, Your Honor, at least until a few unpleasantries can be decided.
Bellini hands a document to the bailiff, who hands it to the judge.
Defense moves that my client be permitted to appear unshackled in court.
Objection, Your Honor. The monster is a threat to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Iron shackles will give the jury the impression that the defendant is a dangerous and violent man, presumed guilty before the trial even commences.
Your Honor, the accused is known to have strangled two of his victims with his bare hands.
Your Honor, let's not mistake this much maligned, wounded man, unfairly incarcerated in your stockade, for some make-believe creature in a garish penny dreadful. But don't take my word for it. My delicate associate here has visited the poor soul just this morning. What sort of threat do you imagine he poses, Miss Hoffman?
I don't see any co-counsel listed on the docket, Mr. Bellini.
Oh, I beg the court's indulgence. If I've given the impression of some impropriety, Miss Hoffner is not here in a legal capacity. She's simply here to advise me.
Advise you on what matter?
Miss Hoffner was a longtime friend of the Frankenstein family. She was present during the creation of Maxwell Berg.
The people ask why this association wasn't disclosed during discovery. Why isn't Miss Hoffner, is it, on the witness list?
Miss Hoffner was not present at the time of any of the alleged murders and so can offer no testimony as a witness. But her longtime association with all of the involved parties will provide invaluable anecdotal context. In much the same way, I suspect that Victor's brother Ernest will no doubt dredge up some household dirt for the prosecution.
Do the people have any objection?
Coopersmith rises, but Ernest tugs his sleeve, shaking his head no. Coopersmith sits.
No objection.
Very well. I'll allow her to address the court. Miss Hoffner, in your layman opinion, is Maxwell Bird a threat to these proceedings?
His height, build, and scarred visage will no doubt startle most, Your Honor. But he can barely speak. His range of motion is severely limited, and he is still quite weak from his wounds.
Is it not true that his condition improves daily?
His constitution is remarkable, yes. But he's resigned himself to accept whatever fate the court has in store for him. Frankly, Your Honor, he's like a big, wounded puppy.
The hound dog defense, is it? I'll withdraw my objection if Your Honor will agree to arm the bailiff and post 2 additional guards armed with Kentucky rifles to accompany him at all times.
Armed guards? That's the same as if you were in irons. Prejudicial, Your Honor.
Chains or long rifles, Mr. Bellini. Take your pick.
Mr. Coopersmith, I keep my own counsel on what safety measures are appropriate in my courtroom. Thank you. Miss Hoffner?
I don't believe he'll cause trouble.
I would remind the court that even a gentle dog can become rabid.
I agree with the defense that the presence of armed guards would be prejudicial, but having the bailiff carry a sidearm seems prudent. Next motion.
Olivia hands Bellini a hardbound edition of Shelley's Frankenstein novel. Bellini raises it for all to see.